Certified financial planner professionals are certified to provide comprehensive financial planning that can address just about any facet of one's financial life, including retirement, estate planning, taxes, education, and more. For more info, go to letsmakeaplan.org to find a CFP professional for you.
We're going to do a little trivia question for you here. As most of you by now probably know, we are celebrating our 18th year together, and this will be our last year doing this together. November 17th will be our last day, and as one of the tiny ways that we can say thank you to everybody for everything they've done for us, we're giving away all of these bobbleheads. And so Golic had a really good idea that we would do some trivia questions about the show. And you came up with the first one.
I did, and actually it was my wife's idea, and I don't really have a good idea, so I'll go with our field producer, my wife, for this one. But
like it?
Basically what we're going to do, and we used to would do trivia with phone calls. We can't do it in the situation we're in right now. That's why it has to be Twitter-friendly. But basically, it'll be the first tweet that gets this answer correct for this trivia question. And the trivia questions we're going to mix in different ways to give away the bobbleheads. Some will be trivia, and the trivia is going to be about our show.
Right.
Going back a lot of years, maybe not so many years, depending. So it'll test listeners' and viewers' knowledge of the show. So right now, get the Twitter ready. The first Twitter in that Andrea gets with the correct answer will win a bobblehead. There's been a gentleman that's been part of this show for years. His name is Bob Picozzi.
It's all decks on hand, as you know, in a Game 7.
Sure. He had the great quote there, mistakenly said all decks on hand.
And that became something that we used for years.
We used it for years, and people would always correct us. We were like, we know, and that's the reason why.
It's an all decks on hand game.
Bob would do updates. Bob's done, play-by-play basketball, football, so such a big part of ESPN and our show. Well, when he would come on our show, he had a certain segment on our show. So the question is, what was the name of Bob Picozzi's segment on our show?
And this goes back basically to our first year.
Yes, it does.
So there was no TV. This was before ESPN News. This was when we were in the little closet with Gabby the cleaning lady.
Yes, it was.
We're
Good
talking
job.
about.
You just gave away a future trivia question, but don't worry about it.
What was the future? Oh, I have a million better questions.
I know
than
you
that.
do, but these are fun little ones.
The difference between you and me is that I remember everything from the show, and you do not.
We just emptied the barrel on all the ones that I remember.
Yeah, Golic has not just asked you the one question he knows. I know all the other ones, but back in that first year, we'll wait for Andrea to scroll through here and get the right first correct answer, and then Golic will pick the bobblehead, and then we'll get Jon Gruden going here. But in our very first year, we were basically broadcasting in a closet. I mean, we're talking about the smallest room where you and I are sitting together right now, just the two of us. I don't think we could be as far apart as we are now.
No.
In that room we were in. And there was a woman named Gabby, and she was from Poland. Andrea says we have a winner. She was from Poland. She did not speak very much English.
No, she did not.
And she was in the housekeeping staff, the custodians, cleaning staff. Yep. Sorry. And she did not understand that the red light outside our door meant don't come in here.
Right.
And so we started trying to explain that to her, and eventually we just gave up.
She literally would open the door and just vacuum while we were sitting there on air. And just doing her job. I mean, God love her, just doing her job. And we tried to explain, when the red light's on, don't come in. And as Greeny said, we gave up because she just kept opening the door. So we just paused.
It became part of the show.
While she vacuumed the room.
Yeah, Gabby the cleaning lady is here. Because we didn't have any guests.
No, we didn't.
We were on like 4 radio stations.
Yeah,
no one was listening, so it didn't really make a whole lot of difference.
For each day, people in those 4 affiliates heard 30 seconds of a vacuum cleaner.
And you know what? It was probably more interesting than anything we had to say.
There you go.
Meanwhile, Bob Picozzi.
It's all decks on hand, as you know, in a Game 7.
Had that legendary quote, and he had a legendary segment, and Mike, it was called
Bob Picozzi, Did You Nosy?
He'd come in every single day at 6:45. It was the end of the first hour of our show, and we would just talk with him about whatever the top stories of the day were, and then he would end the segment always by asking us a trivia question.
Yes, he would.
And we would usually get it wrong, and sometimes we'd get it right. Many years later, Jason Stark started asking us baseball trivia questions, but that's how it started, with just Bob Picozzi asking us those questions every single day, and it was called the Bob Picozzi Did You Nosy? So Andrea has the winner. Golic, we will get a bobblehead out. We can find find something out about the winner and see if there's something they'd like?
Do that. We can see what that person, we can kind of see what their liking is and see if we can match something, or we can find out what their liking is and I can decide not to match it up at all.
So we'll do one or the other of those two things, and again, we'll keep giving these away.
Yeah, we'll do another trivia question a couple hours from now so different people can have a chance for this thing.
All right, I'm being told we're having issues with the phones. I know that we're having some communication issues today. Not only can't I see, which is a whole other set of problems, but we can't hear the control room.
We can't hear people so much that in certain segments they count us down to when we're going to commercial, and we can't hear them counting us down. So it's basically a guessing game.
At any point right now, our voices might just cut.
That's exactly right.
And that would be a bad thing.
Right.
But the other issue, of course, if we can't hear the control room, we won't be able to hear Jon Gruden on the phone.
No, we will not.
So they're working on that as we speak. So let me go. Should I go to a couple other things here, guys? And someone nod because I can't hear you. Okay. They just typed yes on my screen. So
what happens, our show ends in a couple of months. They just started taking things away and moving them to different studios, and we're with less and less.
Do they need audio? Nah, the hell with it. Okay, let me bounce this off you. Did you see what the mayor of Los Angeles said on the Dan Patrick Show?
Yes, I did.
This to me is incredible, okay? So the Chargers moved from San Diego to Los Angeles, and there is a Mexican restaurant in San Diego where they are giving away free tacos for every Chargers loss. That's exactly what you'd expect, and I love it. Next time I'm in San Diego, my brother lives there, my mom spends most of the year there, I'm going to go there, and I'm going to get myself a free taco. Right. I think you have to say the name Spanos, right?
Yes, I think so, yeah.
The name of the family that owns the team. So you go in there and you say the name Spanos, and if the Chargers lose, they give you a free taco. Phenomenal. Love it.
Beautiful thing.
I'm a fan. I support it.
I like tacos, and I like free.
That's what you expect from people who own restaurants.
Right.
Not what you expect from people who are the mayor of Los Angeles. The mayor of Los Angeles, Eric Garcetti, was on the Dan Patrick Show, and in basically no uncertain terms said, we would have been better off if we just had the Rams.
Yeah.
I'm reading your direct quotes. I said at the time, both the Raiders and the Chargers, it would have been nice if they could have stayed put where they are because Oakland and San Diego have huge fan bases. There's a big tradition. We embrace any team that comes. We're certainly happy to have the Chargers in L.A., but I think we could have been happy with just the Rams. He said that. The mayor of Los Angeles said that.
Yeah.
At the same time that they cannot put as many people in the two Los Angeles stadiums combined as they put for a USC game, and they're charging $100 to park your car.
$100 to park in a 30,000-seat stadium.
At a Charger game, which didn't sell out. And the mayor himself is basically saying, we'd have been better off without
better off if it was just the Rams and not you guys.
I mean,
Mike's a warm welcome.
We're 2 weeks into the season, and this is what's going on here.
I don't know what we knew it was going to be a while before they get their stadium move. There's going to be a transition period, but man, that's a tough one right there. Hey, way to make us feel welcome.
Yeah, I mean,
dude, lie, okay? I mean, you're a politician. Seriously.
We are delighted to have the Chargers. We embrace all the football. I mean, none of that.
Yeah,
I'll give him credit for honesty.
Yeah.
They should have stayed. He said that. He went on Dan Patrick and he said they should have stayed. The Raiders should have stayed and the Chargers should have stayed because they got great fan bases and we don't want it. We don't need it here. It was
nice to say that they have the nice fan bases and he built them up that way, but to say, hey, could have done without them.
All right, I got other stuff ready to go here, but am I told the phones are working? If that is indeed the case, then we are ready to go. Jon Gruden joins us every Wednesday at this time talking football, and also we have to bring him in with appropriate music. Jon Gruden, what do you think?
That's one of my top 10 all-time favorites. I thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. That is a great selection.
That's a great song.
Oh, yeah.
I completely agree with that one. This is a great one.
Listen, the staff is finally getting it.
They are.
When John's coming on, play Van Halen or AC/DC, and everything is going to be
all
fine.
All the staff has to remember is pick a rock and roll that before they were all born. Right. We're going to be good.
Good morning, Jon Gruden. How are you today?
Doing pretty good. That gets your mind off California politics, doesn't it?
There you go.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, no politics, just football. All right, let's get down to business here. We'll get to next week's game. You got Arizona and Dallas, and there's a million questions, I think, about both of those teams, and I'm sure you're already looking at the tape. But I want to go back to the game you had on Monday night because we spent so much of yesterday talking about the Giants and their offensive struggles, which is almost being kind. As you've had now, obviously you were breaking it down as the game was going on, but as you've had a little more time now to digest it, if you're coaching that team, what are you doing? Because the offensive line is going to get Eli killed. He's not a quarterback with all the mobility in the world. They've got 8 straight games without scoring 20 points, and they have a championship caliber defense. What are they going to do about the offensive line?
Well, it's a league-wide concern. That's the number one thing you got to remember. If you watch several teams right now, the offensive line is eye-opening, and it's a concern. The play is not good enough. And we say it every week on this show, I think. It's the collective bargaining agreement, the lack of practice, the way these guys are preparing themselves to block people on game day. It's unrealistic, I think. You got to keep things in mind that the Giants have a young offensive line. They're already missing their right tackle, Bobby Hart. He went out, I think, on the second play of the game. That forced a two-position switch. So Pugh goes over to right tackle. They bring in Brett Jones to play left guard. Now you're really in trouble. And, I think it's a league-wide thing. There's just a lot of new people playing at different positions with limited off seasons and limited practices, and it's going to take a month, I think, into the regular season to see what you really have. Unfortunately for the Giants, they got to go to Philadelphia. That's not a good place to go to work on your pass protection.
Completely agree, John, and we've been banging this drum every week. You're right, from last season into this season. So then I want to kind of turn it to, okay, there's bad line play, and you hate to keep picking on guys, certain individuals that are getting beat. But, when it happens, we talk about it. So talk about it from a coach and a scheme. You can either just say, hey, these are our guys, and this is the scheme we're running, and keep banging your head in the wall and see your guys get beat one-on-one. Or now it can shift to the coach. I first put it on the player. You're a paid professional to do your job. But if you're struggling doing your job, now go to the coach's responsibility, John, to say, you know what? We may need to change schematically to attach a tight end, possibly, to chip with a back, to do that a little more in a way to help our line instead of just saying everything else be damned, we're doing what we're doing no matter what.
No question, Mike. You don't want to be in three receiver sets and invite a nickel defense and invite all these pass rushers to pin their ears back. The Giants are a one-dimensional team. I like what the Lions did. They have been the most one-dimensional team in football for the last 10 years, probably. They are running the ball. They're making a commitment. They're getting excited about 3- and 4-yard games. They're helping their offensive line come together. They're playing with Greg Robinson at left tackle. They're sacrificing the statistics, all the passing, to help their offensive line along until Taylor Decker comes back at left tackle. I think the Giants, they probably have to reel it in a little bit. The problem is Evan Ingram, their first-round pick, is not a blocking tight end, so that minimizes him. You don't want him in there blocking Ziggy Ansah and some of these defensive ends. So their personnel, I don't think they really have the anchor blocking tight end personally to be a great running team, but they're going to have to do something. They're going to have to make some concessions to help their pass protection, no doubt.
Completely agree. And just my quick note on that, Ingram to attach into Flowers, I don't really mean to block. I mean even to go out into to pass. At least it's going to slow up that speed rushing end just a hair before he goes out. But, it's something that they possibly can do.
Mike and Jon Gruden. On the other side, the Packers have Aaron Rodgers, so everyone talks about them. The Vikings had such an incredibly impressive Week 1 performance. You had it on Monday night that everyone was talking about them. And the Lions flying a little under the radar at 2-0. You look at their defense, they're a little balanced. How good a team right now do you think? It's obviously early in the season, but how impressed are you with the Lions?
I am impressed. I'm impressed with Bob Quinn, their general manager. He's another Bill Belichick, New England Patriot disciple. He's really done a great job with this roster in his 2 years. They've drafted well. They have a lot of really good second-year players coming on. Miles Killebrew in the secondary. They have a young middle linebacker, Jared Davis, out of Florida. They have a good group of young players. And they also, I think, have added some good veterans. Some Marvin Jones from the Bengals last year. They bring in Ricky Wagner, T.J. Lang to start on the right side of the line. So it's a good combination of personnel additions. And this is a well-coached football team on both sides. I'm impressed with them. And don't forget, Matt Stafford is right in his prime right now. And he has a good feel for this Jim Bob Cooter offense he's running.
John, we saw what happened to Dallas in Denver. Denver put it on them. And a term that I kind of get a little tired of is, now there's the blueprint. Denver just lined up and whooped the offensive line for the Dallas Cowboys, and everybody says, that's the blueprint. Well, teams have been trying to do that from halfway through last year when they saw Zeke running well and Dak being able to pass off that. So I think teams were already trying to just load up and stop the run. can't we just as easily say Denver just flat out beat them on the line of scrimmage in this game and leave it at that? Or was there more to this?
Well, this was an eye-opening, I think, game. Dallas has a brand new cast of players on defense. If you sat down with the projector and watched the Cowboys defense, you don't recognize a lot of these players. I mean, they got a lot of guys suspended on their defensive line. They've got a new middle linebacker. They've got a whole new cast of characters in their secondary. And good luck on the road covering Demaryius Thomas and all these receivers that Denver has. They got beat up, I think, on defense, got their eyes open. Maybe that's a good thing. And, look, nobody plays defense like the Denver Broncos. They have heat coming off the corner. They have shutdown corners, and it's loud in there. And getting your butt kicked once in a while can be a good thing. It can be an eye-opener, and hopefully that gets Dallas's attention.
Mike and Mike, Jon Gruden with us. That's the game this coming Monday night is Dallas at Arizona. Let's go a little more deeply into that Cowboys offense because it was the talk of the sport a year ago, and then all of a sudden, as you mentioned, they go up against the best defense in football, and now the narrative coming out of the game is, well, Dez Bryant doesn't get separation, and Jason Witten is the only reliable target, and Zeke Elliott is giving up on plays and all this sort of thing. What did you see specifically, or what are you seeing right now as you look at the film of the Cowboy offense?
Well, Dez Bryant he's seen two really good corners in these first 2 weeks. Janoris Jenkins did a great job on Bryant in week 1. And then Aqib Talib had him in week 2 and really did an outstanding job. They need to get Dez Bryant going. They need to get him away from some of these star corners, put him in motion. They need to get Bryant, I think, at the top of the food chain in this pass offense. And they have to find some other targets. They have to find some other ways to move the football. But give Denver credit. They locked down the front. They loaded the box. They took Ezekiel Elliott out of the game, and they dared Dak Prescott to drop back and throw. And, hey, that's hard to do in Denver. You have to pass protect against Von Miller and company, and you have to separate from some of the best defensive backs. Just give round 1 to Denver. If they play again, it'll be a fun game to watch.
John, we go into a season with these high-picked rookies, and we try and decide who's going to be that rookie of the year. And then you get a guy like Kareem Hunt, a guy that goes in the 3rd round, a guy that nobody really knew, who just absolutely breaks out. From the inside, when you're coaching that guy in OTAs and in training camp and in practice, do you see that, or can you still be surprised at, okay, I saw this, or we thought he was pretty good. He's obviously starting for us, but, boy, I didn't expect him to do that.
Yeah, you think you know, but you really don't know until the lights come on in the regular season. I've seen preseason superstars. I've seen guys take off in mini camps. But when you have a debut like Kareem Hunt had against New England, the defending world champions, and then you back it up in the 4th quarter against the Philadelphia Eagles when your team needs you the most, this man is for real. And give Andy Reid a huge assist. This is a coach that has been studying the college game more than anybody else, and he's combined the NCAA playbook with his NFL stuff. You have no idea where Kareem Hunt is coming from and what some of these plays are.
Mike and Mike, Jon Gruden with us here. We're presented by Progressive Insurance. He's on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. One more for you, John. I was on the afternoon show on ESPN 1000 yesterday in Chicago, and all they're talking about is when are we going to put Mitchell Trubisky on the field. They didn't like what they saw from Mike Glennon Sunday in Tampa. Candidly, the entire team was terrible in that game. And I was trying to explain to them, my feeling would be you put Trubisky on the field when he's ready, and it's really not based upon what anyone else is doing. You're not going to try and salvage a season by putting this rookie on the field because, A, it won't serve that purpose, and B, the most important thing you can do is develop him. What is your sense of that quarterback, if you want to call it controversy or at least question, in Chicago, and when you would feel like it was time to go to the rookie quarterback?
Oh, this is tough on John Fox, obviously. You have to remember a week ago, Glennon had the Atlanta Falcons, the defending NFC champions, on the ropes.
He did.
He had them at the goal line with a chance to win that game. But he did not play well, you're right, against Tampa Bay. But when you look at the Chicago Bears schedule, just read off their first 5 or 6 games. You don't want to be switching quarterbacks too early. Just try to stay with Glennon. He's a guy that needs some reps, needs a little bit of time, and keep bringing Trubisky along. But I'd let the veteran Glennon handle the first part of this difficult schedule that the Bears play.
Yep, they've got Pittsburgh this week, and their defense has played great.
Yep.
Then they go to Green Bay. Then they've got Minnesota, which is a great defense. Then at Baltimore, which is a great defense. Then Carolina, which is a great defense.
Wow.
So
Let Golick play quarterback for the Bears.
No.
that would be a rough one. All right, John, outstanding as always. Again, it's Dallas and Arizona this coming Monday night. We'll all see you there. Thank you, Jon Gruden.
John.
All right, have a good one, guys.
Jon Gruden with us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Get instant gold status at Shell. Join the Fuel Rewards program now at fuelrewards.com/gold. What are your thoughts? I was on with those guys yesterday, and you know what it's like. The fans are yelling and screaming. They don't like what they're seeing. We've got this rookie. Everyone's excited. He played well in the preseason. Get him out there on the field. What do you think?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, you're correct, and it's obvious. This isn't rocket science. You have to make sure you're comfortable with that guy being out there. And if he's your backup quarterback, then to a point, you're comfortable enough to say, hey, one play away, we would be putting him on the field. So it's a matter of time. And I also agree, it because this team, if they continue losing and they have these tough defenses to play against, if they're not playing for a whole lot, at some point you're going to see this. But I think you also, there is part of you that wants a healthier line. I think you want to get Kyle Long back, who's missed the first couple of games. Sitton just went out with some ribs. Is he going to be good to come back? So if you're going to put Trubisky out there, at least give him a little bit of the arsenal in front of him. That will help, even though they're losing some of the arsenal outside of him with their top two wide receivers already out for the season. So you may wait on things like that. I do have a feeling the way the season is going, and through no fault of Glennon, again, didn't play well against Tampa and had Atlanta beat. If they beat Atlanta, you're in that opening game, you're singing Glennon's praises.
Correct.
Saying, what a great job.
He threw two game-winning touchdown passes in that game, and they were both dropped.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen, so, it's get them out. I mean, that's kind of how it worked.
You're listening to Love Advice with Leanne. Caller, you're on the air.
Hi, Leanne. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Why, in your professional opinion, do you never take my calls off the air?
Is this Carl?
Yep, it's Carl. I mean, we had a few dates. Everything was great. I thought,
Well, when you switch to Geico, you could save a lot of money on car insurance.
Okay, awesome.
You should call them.
I will.
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
I've got new contact lenses in with a higher prescription, so I can't read now. All of a sudden, I can't read the things that are on a piece of paper. I'm having a tough time.
And for those watching on TV, once the camera gets on me, this is the smallest violin in the world playing for you.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Really? Listen, these when you went and played in your football games and you had like an elbow or an arm or whatever, it is like, those are the injuries that you're playing through. I'm playing through a couple of things here.
I'm begging of you to move on.
Okay. Kirk Herbstreit is ready to go. And this should be pretty interesting. These fabulous Wednesday mornings that we have here with Gruden and Herbie back-to-back, so your NFL and then your college football. And this should be fascinating, Herbie, as you guys, we always say we're coming to your city. Well, this time you're coming to the city. For the first time ever, this Saturday, College Game Day is going to be in Times Square, right in the center of Manhattan in New York City. So, Herbie, this should be a scene unlike any other. What was for those who haven't, heard you guys talking about it, what was the thinking behind this, and what are you expecting Saturday in the Big Apple?
Well, this is something good morning, first of all, guys. But this is something that Chris Fowler, living in New York, and his wife, Jen, they've always talked about how many college football fans, which as an outsider you don't really equate with New York, but how many alums are in that area, obviously, and on a Saturday, how they have their own restaurant / bar where their fans go, whether it's Florida State or Texas or USC or Ohio State or Michigan or whatever. And they take over that bar and 15 TVs and the fight song. It's like a huge tailgate and a pep rally for their team. And they talked about it for years, maybe bringing Game Day in there. And it just, for whatever reason, never really worked out. And this time, I know that Lee Fitting and the others that make the decisions, they thought about trying to make this a reality. And here we are. We're gonna do it. And should be a lot of fun. I think there's some people that are concerned that it's going to still feel like an authentic college game day because we're not on a college campus. And I think it will because, we're going to be right there in Times Square. And I think the people that are going to be around the set with their signs and all the craziness that is normally with college game day will be there. And we're just going to kind of celebrate the alums and the fans and how passionate they are because they can't always get out to their games and travel to see their teams. But they still celebrate college football on a given Saturday there in New York and should be a lot of fun.
I think it's a great idea, but I want to make sure, Herbie, that you're going in with your eyes wide open because wherever you go, you guys are loved by everybody. You're going to New York, where some people will love it and others are going to say you're messing up the traffic and everything, and you're going to get a lot of people flipping you off. I just hope you know that as well. Okay? That's going to be part and parcel to where you're going to be and kind of what's going on.
Yeah, no, I think anytime I land in LaGuardia, I'm ready for that. It's just a given. That region, and you playing in Philly, I think Philly would pass as well. But there's certain cities you get into that a different you comes out, and you're prepared for anything. So I'll be ready.
It should be a lot of fun. Again, if you're in the New York area, come one, come all, come see the guys on Saturday. Meanwhile, I was unbelievably impressed with Clemson on Saturday night. That was a game I was really looking forward to watching, Herbie. And that defense is just unreal. I know that we have seen some great Alabama defenses in recent years in college football, those that have compared, favorably, people will say, to any defenses in history. But you look what Clemson has done now in back-to-back weeks against Auburn and then against Lamar Jackson and company at Louisville. This is the best defense I've seen in college football this year. What is your sense of Clemson right now and their chances of making it back where they've been the last couple of years?
The first thing I want to say, Greeny, is I just want to offer up some respect and hopefully people see what the job that Dabo Swinney is doing at Clemson. It's one thing to sit here and break down X's and O's, but as you know, and it's human nature, anytime you climb the mountain, you haven't done it in years, and you get to the top, it's easy to kind of let the complacency set in. Clemson has arrived to a point as a program where they are arm in arm with Alabama. They are recruiting at a level that is at a different place, different galaxy. They're replacing players, and I don't mean the last 1 or 2, 3 years. I mean the last 6 or 7 or 8 years. They're doing an incredible job of recognizing talent, and more importantly, as we've been talking a lot about 5-star recruits lately and their entitlement, they do a really good job of recruiting character and kids that fit their culture. They'll chase guys away after a recruiting weekend because Dabo will talk to his current players and say, hey, does he fit us? And if his players tell him no, he doesn't, and he's a 5-star who runs a 4.3, Dabo would not continue to recruit him. So what they do is they have found a formula that works for them, not only how fast he is and how strong he is, but does he fit our kind of guy? And if the answer is no, they will not recruit him. So that's something. That's just background information to know why this Paul, this orange and white team and purple just continues to play the way they have. It's by design. And what they've done, I think you're right. Kelly Bryant's performance, this team is going to execute in a different way. They're going to run the football more effectively than when they had Deshaun Watson. Will they continue to be able to throw will be the one mystery as they get into some of the tougher games, but I think the answer is going to be yes. They're clearly, in my opinion, the team to beat in the ACC. They look like they're headed back to the playoff. Their defense, as you said, is frightening. That defensive line, the linebackers, the safeties, the corners. Brent Venables is maybe one of the best defensive minds in the last 3 years. So everything is there. And most importantly, even though they won a championship last year, somehow they found a way to play with a chip on their shoulder. They're mad at everybody, and that's always a good thing, as Mike can tell you when you play football.
And let me tell you, if Brian can throw, improving and throwing these tough games, they're going to be hard to beat because that defense is ridiculous.
Yeah.
As you said, they can run the ball. Looking at a couple ranked games, Oklahoma State, Mason Rudolph getting all kind of love for throwing the ball around. It's a Big 12, but, so we're kind of used to that. Playing TCU, though, a team at this point is passing the ball just 41% of the time with Kenny Hill coming passing the ball mostly, but they're a running team now. So how do you see this one going? I'm looking for that Oklahoma State-Oklahoma matchup, but you don't want to discount other teams because there are those that thought TCU would be the team coming out of the Big 12 this year.
Yeah, I was one of those. I kind of went, that was my wild card in the preseason trying to pick a playoff team, and everybody's saying Oklahoma or Oklahoma State, and I thought this might be a team with Gary Patterson where they might get back to playing better defensively, which always gives you a leg up in the Big 12 because there are very few teams that typically are able to slow teams down in that conference, but they've looked good. Now, they haven't really played anybody. I mean, they went on played Arkansas, but at this point, they haven't really been tested the way they will be this weekend. I think that could be the game of the weekend, really, because, as you said, Oklahoma State looks like a video game right now with Mason Rudolph. They're not just scoring. It's like backyard football. I mean, it's 50-yard passes, 60-yard passes. everything downfield and people playing a man-to-man. So how will Gary try to slow down that offense, maybe try to possess the ball himself to try to kind of keep it away from what they're doing? This kid, Darius Anderson, is stepped up with Hicks not playing. So it'll take a balanced attack, but don't just assume, hey, Bedlam, OU, Oklahoma State is going to be the answer to the Big 12. We're going to learn a lot more about what's going to happen in the Big 12 this weekend, because I think TCU is more competitive than people are giving them credit for.
And then an SEC matchup. How much are we buying into another ranked rank is Georgia and Mississippi State that just dismantled LSU? I'm not going to lie. That surprised me a little bit. Georgia, we know with the young quarterback, but they have the two backs that can run the ball well, fast on defense, as normally most SEC defenses are. But how much are we buying into Mississippi State?
I'm buying a lot. I thought they'd beat LSU. I didn't think it'd be that bad, but I thought at home they had a really good chance. How good a coach is Dan Mullen, by the way? Just down there in Starkville, Mississippi, just like the little engine that could, 9th year down there. You got to believe that if he continues to win at the rate that he has been, and if he has a great year this year, more and more teams are going to be looking at him, even though Mississippi State is in the SEC. Who knows where he could end up. His quarterback, if you guys have not seen him in a year where everybody's talking about Josh Rosen and Josh Allen and Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield, get a load of number 7 that plays down at Mississippi State. This kid, Nick Fitzgerald, he played last year, gave you a little taste of what he could do, trying to fill the shoes of Dak Prescott, and now this year is really tough. Talk about a dual guy, throwing, running. They can run the football with Arius Williams. They're tough, and I don't think they walk into Georgia intimidated at all. In fact, I think they got a really good chance to compete and beat Georgia in Athens. So another good game. This weekend there aren't one or two like marquee games. There's like 9 or 10 really good games, and you just touched on 2 of them.
And again, if you are in the New York area, come one, come all, come see the guys. College Game Day live from Times Square this Saturday, which should be great fun. And Kirk Herbstreit will be there. And then, Herbie, if you're not busy afterwards, go see Dear Evan Hansen. It's magnificent. And it's just a couple of blocks away.
I would love to do that if I had a little bit more time. I got to fly up to Iowa City for Penn State and Iowa, or I would take you up on that.
That doesn't
Maybe
sound
Friday night I can do that.
Okay, yeah, we'll figure that out a different time. I was just trying to throw in a little humor.
There you go.
Herbie, thank you so much.
Herbie.
Enjoy it. We'll see you this weekend.
All right, fellas. Take care.
That's Kirk Herbstreit with us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. To make sure you check out the Herbstreit and Fitzsimmons podcast. Ohio girl in Missouri, and you read her tweet.
I read this,
tweeted,
yes.
Clemson got screwed and continues to be screwed by Alabama being number 1. Clemson won the title. They have a good schedule. Bama doesn't. First and foremost, Ohio girl in Missouri, it doesn't make any difference who's number 1 or number 2 right now. It never matters, again, who's anywhere in the AP poll, because all that will matter is what the people on the committee think, and they don't start voting for a couple of more weeks. And also, at the end of the day, the difference between 1 and 2 is a pretty small
it doesn't.
one.
I get her point. I understand it. But in
Me
the
too.
big picture, it doesn't matter.
No, you want to be able to say we're the number 1 team in the country.
Yeah.
To me, it is less about who won the championship last year, because that was last year's team and this is this year's team. Then you look at who they've beaten. Clemson has beaten 2 ranked teams this year, and handily. They've played. Wait, Hembo just sent me the stat a minute ago, and I'll find it for you here. They've played here. They're the only team with 2 ranked wins this season. They've outscored those opponents, Auburn and Louisville, by a combined 34 points, and outgained them by a combined 344 yards. They deserve to be number 1 in the country. Again, not that it really matters, but I can see why it might matter to them.
Right.
But more to the point, here's how irrelevant it is. The guy sent me a story. Someone on CBSSports.com wrote. So Mississippi State beats up on LSU this week. Beats up on them.
Yes.
5 people voting put LSU ahead of Mississippi State this week. They played each other this week. Mississippi State, it's one thing if they beat them 17-16 and you think one team is the better one. They killed them.
Yeah.
So what more are you going to do? They beat them 37-7. So,
and it's not like it was at the end of the year when Mississippi State had 3 losses and this was LSU's first loss.
Right. And one voter put Stanford number 15 in the country this week. They're 1-2.
Yeah.
They just lost to San Diego State.
Listen, I'm with you.
So this means nothing. I mean, nothing could mean less than
There's
that.
part of me that wants to bring the computers back. That wants to put it all in there with and then you don't get the random ranking of how did they rank that team there? I mean, throw it in a computer.
But let's once again bear in mind that none of this will impact who winds up getting anywhere.
My point is, it's human beings still deciding.
Yes.
With the committee, where to me, I kind of like the computer way and let the computer decide who's going to be in the playoffs instead of trying to figure out what the committee is looking for and them not really telling you, but them actually telling you by the teams they pick.
All right, couple of other things here. We had Field Yates in early this morning talking about the possibility. Again, no one is speculating this is going to happen. It's just the logical possibility that at the end of this season, Drew Brees' contract runs out. So put yourself in their position, Mike. You're the Saints. Your team is, through a lot of your own mismanagement, no question. They've had the most dead money in each of the last two seasons in the league. But whatever. You don't feel particularly close to winning a championship. Drew Brees is going to command an enormous amount of money. Now, he's the most beloved player in the history of your city. He has been the most important player in the history of New Orleans sports, and it's not even close. But do you decide to spend, I'm just making a number up here, $30 million a year to try to build around him, or do you let him go?
I do.
You build around him at 30
What was their
million
record the last 3 years?
7-9.
Can you make it in the playoffs at 9-7?
Sure.
Okay. So we say they're way far. They're 2 games away from the possibility of getting into the playoffs.
Yep.
And then we've seen a 9-7 Giants team go on and win the Super Bowl. It can happen. So you need to get a better defense. I listen. As long as I have Brees throwing for around 5,000 yards and scoring a lot of points, I'm going to try and stick with that guy. And I'm going to start, if I'm management, looking in the mirror at who I'm bringing in and giving money to. Because that's what it comes down to. You 2 years in a row, you got the most dead money. What does that mean? You made some bad choices. Junior Collette cost them a lot of money in dead money. They made some bad choices out there. And so you're going to penalize the entire team and city by saying, well, we screwed up, so we can't bring Drew Brees back anymore and spend all this money because of mistakes that we made. You got to do better. That's what I would say. I say, you have a limited time left with Drew Brees. We know we have to pay him. Let's do better with what we're doing with free agency and drafting on defense in the time we have Drew Brees left. Get us a couple of more wins, hopefully get into the playoffs, and then you never know what can happen.
And Dave tweets, thank you, Jon Gruden. Credit to Denver. It's always what's wrong with the Cowboys. How about what's right with the Broncos? The Broncos are my AFC team this year behind that defense and their star quarterback
MVP?
of the future, Trevor Siemian. Right now, he just threw 4 touchdowns against the Cowboys this week. The Broncos are a somewhat surprising 2-0. I got right now Trevor Siemian for MVP of the league.
First time skydiving?
Sure is.
Okay, you just open the door like this and you jump. Wait.
Should we be like in tandem?
Tandem? That's a great idea.
Are you a certified instructor?
No, but I love parachutes and I love people. Here we go.
You wouldn't take chances with an uncertified skydiving instructor. Don't do it with your finances. Find a certified financial planner professional today at letsmakeaplan.org. CFP. Work with the highest standard.